He slaughters a fowl, throws it down. The fowl dances. The position at which the fowl lies tells you whether you are a witch or not. If it lies at the back, you are not. If it lies at the stomach, you are.
But on many occasions, they are not even sent to witch trials. Some are brutalized.
Mami,
many women have been banished into witch camps. There are currently 5 of them scattered in northern Ghana. But many alleged witches get unlucky. They are killed even before the trial. That was the story of Ikea Dented, a 90-year-old woman who was tortured till she died. She was threatened and then whipped to extract a confession from her. Then after the forced confession, she was tortured until she died subsequently.
I will make an appropriate contribution also to the Akua Denta Foundation to express my own revulsion at the awful, tragic act that has occurred in this region. It is vital, as the regional minister said, that it should not happen again, and we should all work together to ensure that never again do such acts disfigure the face of our nation. I hope that the quick response of the police will lead to the rapid administration of justice.
For us as prosecutors, we will leave no stone unturned to prosecute this case to the end. In this particular case, the people are coming all the way from Kafaba. And looking at the time courts start sitting, it's a distance. And so they will have to wake up as early as possible. And we have a number of witnesses who would always have to carry themselves all the way from Kafaba to Tamale for Muslim. And so that is actually what is keeping the case slowed down.
A lady picked a quarrel.
All right, so Jojo Kobna put together the harrowing documentary Finding the Witch Hunters, which aired on the JoyNews channel this week. Though victims have been attacked and maimed in these criminal acts, very few, if at all, of these cases have been prosecuted. Often some settlement is reached when these attackers are supposed to be prosecuted and jailed for their crimes. This morning, we'll be having a conversation about how to get the law enforcement agencies to start prosecuting these cases and how Parliament can help address the issue. Joining us for the conversation is Lamnatu Adam, Executive Director, Song Taba, Ahmed Awal Kariama, Executive Director, Rural Initiatives for Self-Empowerment, Ghana, and Rice Ghana, and then Jojo Kobna, who's the producer of the documentary Finding the Witch Hunters. And welcome to all of you to the AM show. And before we actually get on with the conversation, I was just having a conversation with Nimwa, who has finished her cocoa, by the way. Yes, that wasn't supposed to be on there, but you heard it. She's finished her cocoa, so we're fine. I've finished my courses too.
Okay. Harrowing, really sad documentary.
Yeah.
And
so I was just indicating that put yourself in the shoes of the woman we saw in the documentary, or one of the women we saw in the documentary, who is being told to tell the truth. Tell the truth, tell the truth.
But this tell the truth is a pre-decided truth.
Yeah.
So your truth will not be accepted as true. It's a confession, which is what they're calling the truth. So in other words, it's confess whether you are or you are not. Otherwise, we will continue to beat you or to torture you like this.
So put yourself in that person's shoes. You have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. All right? It's like mob justice. Somebody who hasn't done anything, an innocent bystander walking somewhere, people decide to chase the person because they say somebody has said he's a thief. You're going after the person, you get to the person, you beat the person to pulp or lynch the person. This woman may have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, and yet you're pronouncing her a witch. And she's clueless. Put yourself in that person's shoes. You're clueless. They say confess. Speak the truth. You don't know what truth they're talking about. And yet they go on to torture you because you're refusing to speak their truth. And in some instances, you're killed. And when these things happen, they will say settlement.
Yeah.
Jojo Kobna, before we get into it, I want you to you put together this documentary, and I'm sure you'd have encountered some of these things that we're talking about, which you have documented. But sometimes there are many more stories that are never actually captured in the documentary. So tell us about some of the experiences you encountered on the ground.
Hello, Israel.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. So it is very disheartening because this country has been talking about this witch camp issue for many years, and we've been talking about how to prevent this act, how to nip it in the bud. And I mean, Parliament has even been talking about the fact that they even need an anti-witchcraft bill to ensure that women who are accused of witchcraft are sort of get some sort of respite, and also to prevent even people from making accusations. But although all we have been doing is talking, the bill has been drafted but has not progressed. The last time I checked, it has not progressed. And so you have situations where immediately people beat people, and even the police are forced to act. You have members of parliament coming in. You have people coming in to even secure bail for the people who even who committed the various atrocities. And then at the end of the day, the chiefs will also come in and say that, and this is our community, so leave it. So in the documentary, if you remember, we spoke to the acting regional PRO, the Savannah region, the police PRO, and he said, well, we sometimes try to pursue some of these cases, but the people, the chiefs can easily call and tell us, you know what, we want to settle it out of court. And in the documentary, the regional minister for the Savannah region, in the case of Mary Ibrahim, the woman who was severely tortured, I don't have words to describe exactly what was done to her. The regional minister said, well, we went to secure bail for the people, and as people in the community, we have to, as opinion leaders, we have to solve problems. So you're just wondering why he would say that they have to solve problems. What problems? Why should this problem be solved? The problems can only be solved when you get into the court, and then the judgment is pronounced, and then the people are free. Why do you have to encourage impunity by stepping in and making sure that the law that we have all subscribed to does not take effect? And so these are the pockets of problems that happen, and this sort of prevents the, justice for many women who are languishing in the camps. And as I speak to you now, about 293 women are in the witches camp. Many of them have very terrible stories. From Gambaga, I can remember one lady whose name is Konjit Langbong, who fell, and if you could see the video, you could see that she had a very badly twisted arm. She also has very harrowing stories. Some are beaten with bicycle chains. It is quite heartbreaking. I mean, but unfortunately, the police are unable to act because we have so many people coming in and saying that, well, we are one people, and so let's solve it.
Wow, Jojo, I have so many questions. Just trying to let's tell me about these witch camps. I mean, because we hear about them, we don't actually know, what goes on there. What kind of life that these women have, and who is actually keeping them, in there. Are there like guards or like people who prevent them from going in and out? Do they see their families? Are these witch camps even legal? How do they continue to exist?
Well, as for being legal, it's not legal because immediately the people get into the camps, they lose many of their rights. They cannot move out of the witches camp without the shrine head, the person who heads the various shrines. So in the Tendana, that is the person who actually takes care of the women when they are accused of witchcraft in the various camps. And it's quite interesting. When a woman is accused of a witchcraft, they take her to the camps, and then at the shrines, they slaughter a fowl. The fowl will dance around, and the position that a fowl will die and lie down will determine whether a woman will lose her entire freedom. So, for example, when the fowl lays on its back, it means that you're not a witch. But when it has its beak pointing to the ground, it means that you're a witch. And so we have all these rituals. So a chicken, in essence, is determining the entire fate and cause of a woman's life when accusations have been brought to them. And the camps serves as safe havens. But the thing is that because they exist, people will always send women there. People will always accuse them with the slightest, excuse. For example, one of the ladies I interviewed, Zainab Kogo Tendana, said, someone said, well, they dreamt and saw her in the dream, and the dream wasn't good. And so because of that, she was a witch. And then they go to the witch camp, the ritual is done, and the fowl laid on its back, meaning that she was not guilty. But the people still said they still don't believe that she's she's not a witch, and so she had to go there. And so it is like a safe haven for the women who go there. It prevents people from attacking them. But now there are other extra layers of issues that happen there, because now how do they eat? These women lose their lands, they lose many of the things that they have, their properties, and so they in essence go there to suffer. I remember one of the camps that I went to, some of the alleged witches will go to marketplaces and sweep sand mixed with soil, grains, and come and sieve the grains from the sun and dry them out before they are able to cook. At other camps too, like the Gambaga, the Presbyterian Church will be giving them rations, food occasionally, grains, but they are just very little for them to survive on. And so it looks like the state is not doing enough. And the women they are in sort of bondage. They cannot, some of them are really accept them.
Okay, thank you, Jojo, for the overview. Let me start this conversation with Laminatu Adam, who's the Executive Director for Song Taba. Good morning, Laminatu, and thank you so much for joining us. So every time we hear stories like this, we're quick to, get annoyed or feel some sort of indignation at the unfairness, of course, which we should. I keep asking myself that we are a deeply spiritual people. Some of us are Christians, some are traditionalists, some are, Muslim, different religious groupings here in Ghana. And for many, many, many years, we've believed in certain things. So really, this is a belief issue. How do we handle an issue like this, which is very spiritual, because I've realized, you know, in these conversations that we can have all the conversations that we want about the law and legality and what is right and what is wrong, but you find that all these things don't touch the spiritual beliefs of the people that we're dealing with. So how do we really actually start to bring some change?
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, so how do we start to bring some real change? You know, not just the conversations about law and all of that, but some real change to these communities.
Okay, good morning, and then good morning to our viewers. It's such a sad situation, and I have always said that looks like we've always waited for something to happen, and then we all lament, and then we go back to sleep, and then it comes again. I think that the discourse around witchcraft accusations and its consequences need to continue in our programming, in our platform for discussions, be it media, be it at community convenings or regional levels. Because there's that deep-seated belief in witchcraft. And for people, forgive me, in the North, the belief is that if there is that witchcraft or a person accused of witchcraft, then the person is not supposed to live among them again. And as you heard Jojo talked, you know, sometimes even this tribal deal by going to the camp, which is already not legal, even if that tribal deal even says that the person is not guilty, community says that they don't want to take the person back. And that is sad, because it makes it then difficult. At what point do you believe in the shrine, and at what point do you deny the shrine again? Yeah. You know, so the fact that this is a deep-seated belief means that we have to have series of conversation going on, especially among agencies like the groups of men, the groups of boys, you know, our traditional authority and our religious authorities as well. And then also come to talk about the aspect of
Okay, looks like we're having a few network issues with the internet, but let's talk to Awal, who is also joining us. Ahmed Awal Karyam as the Executive Director for Rural Initiatives for Self-Empowerment Ghana. That's right. So Awal, pretty much the same question to you. You know,
nothing for.
How do we deal with some of these issues outside of the really big conversations about law and legislature and policies and stuff? If we're really tackling a society's belief systems, how do we start?
Yes, so thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this important matter, a matter that hinges on the fundamental human rights of fellow Ghanaians, in this case, our mothers, our sisters, our wives, our grandmothers. It's unfortunate that we are where we are today. And so it's with the part that I joined this conversation. Going straight to your question, in terms of how we can address this, I think we need a civil society organization to overhaul our programming. By overhauling our programming, what I mean is that we have been engaging in service delivery, awareness raising, and advocacy in terms of changing these mindsets. And we know that our institutions, in terms of the institutions for seeking redress, the legal systems are few and far between. We have few courts, we have few prosecutors, we have few judges, so cases take long to be prosecuted. So what we can do in terms of overhauling our programming is to engage in strategic litigation. New society must begin to engage in strategic litigation and ensuring that people who perpetrate these acts are brought to book by supporting the victims and survivors able to access justice, no matter what it takes legally to access this justice. So we need to move our programming from creating awareness at the community level, from engaging the chiefs and traditional leaders, to actually promoting the prosecuting of people who perpetrate these crimes. If we do that, it will serve as a strong deterrent to other people who are likely to do that. Number two, all of us should be worried and concerned about the fact that we are gradually creating a safe haven in the witches' camps. From Jojo's documentary, you realize that one woman was accused when they went to the shrine said she was innocent. She was taken back to the community and she lost a limb. So such a person, if you tell her tomorrow, she would have, if she knew by now in her mind, she would say, maybe I should have just confessed and remained in the camp. So people are not keeping their people safe, even despite the fact that they have been pronounced not witches. Some of us don't even believe that somebody should be subjected to trial by ordeal or a ritualist should determine somebody is a witch or not. Those ones are a topic for another discussion. Some of us don't agree. But in that case, even when you believe that and you take the person to the place and the shrine says that the person is innocent, why do you come back and harm the person? And we are talking about the fact that it's over 2 years, the person is still at large. Come on, that's unacceptable. So civil society, the Ministry of Gender, the Regional Security Council, chaired by the various regional ministers, it's an indictment on all of us. Civil society, the Ministry of Gender, the whole country, that for 2 years, somebody's mother lost the limb because, she lost the arm because somebody accused her of being a witch and she was subsequently cleared that she is not a witch. And then still the person went ahead to cut her arm off and still at 2 years he's at large. Come on. What is the duty of RECSEC? They have several meetings. Is it not a serious security issue? So we must be careful in terms of how we respond to these issues. Otherwise, we will make the witches camp a safe haven so that people will actually even say that, oh, I'm better off in the witches camp. And once they begin to believe that the witches camp is safer for them when they are accused, then it's a difficult and long conundrum we are entering that is not going to be helpful for us. The other thing is the power of the media. You realize that we are discussing this subject matter not because the Ministry of Gender brought it up, but because of the power of the media. So we need to constantly engage the media and name and shame some of the perpetrators of these acts. We may not be able to prosecute everybody because of the interference Jojo was mentioning about MPs interfering, about other chiefs interfering. But when we name and shame, and the media has the power to do that, it will go a long way to serve as a strong deterrent and discourage other people who want to engage in that practice. And then also, I think we need to look at our building enough courts, getting enough judges, so that they are accessible to the people who need them. Sometimes the cost of accessing justice is a whole thing together. It discourages a lot of people from seeking justice when they actually, so they go to court a number of times and they give up because they cannot continue to afford, and they cannot afford the long span of time that we take to adjudicate our cases. And then also, if we look at basic mathematics, every good mathematics teacher will tell you that you start from the known to unknown. And we are talking about the anti-witchcraft bill. Perfect and fine. But before that, there are existing regulations and provisions in our constitution, in our criminal code, and other laws of Ghana that allows us to be able to prosecute people who assault other people, people who subject people to inimical practices that dehumanize their human rights. So we need to start from there. And for me, in as much as I agree that we need this anti-witchcraft act to regulate this, there are existing laws that we need to enforce. And as early as we enforce them, the better. Because we delay and we, as we talk, the bill is still not finalized, it's not out yet. And so there are existing laws. Let's use the existing laws to be able to prosecute whoever is engaged in this practice.
Yeah,
and then finally,
Ahmed, before you come to your final point, I appreciate the point you're making about how we need to use the existing laws to prosecute and deal with the people who are perpetrating these crimes. But as Enima indicated, we find ourselves in a society where these things have become acceptable. It is the people within the society who actually send or pronounce these people as witches. So in the documentary, and when one of the scenes that we've been seeing, like a whole community has gathered. And there's one woman in the middle, and she's being beaten and tortured and all of that. So this has the support of the community. And so it becomes difficult, or you should appreciate when the law enforcement agencies come in and say, well, it becomes difficult for us to prosecute, and they rather would want to settle these cases. How about we bring in the traditional authorities themselves? Because I believe they have a lot more influence. So if we are able to win them and convince them that these things cannot happen, and they would have to actually ensure the prosecution, we probably may have these traditional authorities volunteering to fish out the people who are involved and then hand them over to the police.
I agree with you. We need a crop of traditional authorities who are champions and we can ride on their backs. But in doing that, we need to also know that some of these acts are actually perpetrated and promoted by traditional authorities. So that is a delicate balance we need to tread. And then you mentioned the fact that we are a community. Yes, that is true. The community is supportive of each other, protective of each other, and exposing a particular person to violence. If you look at the particular case of the woman I was making, she was brought from the community. The community believes in the traditional system, and they took her there. The traditionalist says she's not a witch. She goes back to the community and she's attacked. So we need to address the problem, approach the problem with different angles. From the angle of the traditional authorities, some of them can be champions. From litigation, that's why I talk about strategic litigation from civil society, so that we can pursue some of these people. The state authorities may not have the energy and the staying power to do this. But with civil society taking keen interest, we can be able to address these issues.
And indeed, talking about the law enforcement agencies, we are bringing this to the full attention of the Inspector General of Police. Jojo Kobna and I have had a conversation about it, and I've had a conversation with the IGP already, and I forwarded the YouTube link to him, and he says that it's something that he would want to look at. So we're looking forward to how the law enforcement agencies intend to come in at this point, because really these things cannot be allowed to happen. For how long are we going to pronounce people as witches and go after them?
I'm sorry to interrupt, Israel, and this is for both Awal and Lamina too, because we're still, I find that we're still unable to actually target or really answer the question of the spiritual beliefs of the people, the spiritual authority that's been imbibed into them. Now, the reason why I keep on focusing on that is that when a group of people believe in something so strongly, it's difficult for them to be perturbed by anything, really, you know, even prosecution or law. I mean, Christians believe in certain things. You hear people, they fight, they get so passionate. This is a belief. You know, you go into this society, this is their belief. These people are witches. This is how we deal with it. You know, this is what it is. The problem is the point at which there's a belief that, one, there are witches in our community. This is how we deal with witches. This is who is appointed to kill these witches, or this is who is appointed to do. How do we just remove that whole system thing from the community so that it doesn't even rise up? Because I feel like as long as some people believe in this strongly enough, they will continue to find a way to go around it, to still pull out people as witches, still lynch them and beat them and all of that. And some may even, people get so passionate about religion, some may even say, well, you know, if it's for a good cause, I'm willing to go to prison, or I'm willing to do this, or I'm willing to do this. We've seen what cults do. We've seen what religious, like, cults is. We've seen what that is. And I find that, you know, both of you are kind of not really getting into that part of the conversation for me. And I really want to know, how do we address those spiritual beliefs, which are the foundation of this whole issue?
Well, maybe I may want to come in on that. We have, I mean, I couldn't agree with you less. We have noticed the power of our spiritual leaders. We've noticed the power of our traditional authority. And we've noticed also that if there's going to be a change, it will come from these institutions. And because of that, we've done a series of engagement with religious bodies and our traditional authorities. We've even held regional level traditional authority conversation around witchcraft accusation. But like I said, because of the deep-seatedness of their belief, it makes it even very impossible for for example, a community chief to have a whole control over the youth. That's why in my earlier submission, I was saying that we need to hold series of discussion with the agencies that are in the community, with the structures, community structures that are in the community, the group of men, the group of boys, the group of, women and elders, to appreciate that even as much as we believe, we are also, enforced by law not to harm them, So if somebody believes that is a witch and must be beaten this way, you must also understand that the laws which governs us and is superior to what your belief is does not allow you to be. And I think that is where we are, that communities must appreciate that even though they believe, but their actions are also, going against the human rights of these people. And apart from that also, I think that the agencies, like we've talked about, need to act. The police need to act. If people do this and they go free, then there's no motivation. It keeps, coming up again. If the whole country had heard that within 3-4 months, the perpetrators in the Equiadente case were all prosecuted and they have been sentenced, any other person knows that, look, for me to do this, this is the action that will come. But if we keep dragging here and there, eventually the victim or survivor will be tired and will, forget about the case. And so therefore, I understand the religious leaders have a big space to communicate the values in, for example, in Islamic religion, which is mostly paramount or majority in this part of our country. They have a big space to use, and we've engaged quite a number. And like I said, we have also identified some champions within these religious authorities to continue to use their sermons to discuss about how people's actions are affecting the fundamental human rights of others. This is not a one-time talk because, believe me, this is a century-long belief. And so it takes several other efforts to bring the change that we want. But I think that we are going slowly, but we need to be more active. And this is not just about, say, some Taba who is mostly working on it calls on everybody. And even the media. Let us hype the situation. Let us hype it. Let us continue to bring it to the notice of the people in authority. And I appreciate what Israel just said, that he's bringing in the IGP to look into this situation. This may just be happening within the North. But as a country, we cannot continue to bear this shame of older women suffering and going through torture, just because of a mere dream that somebody has seen her, in a dream, should not also change the person's faith. And so we need to recognize the agencies, the structures at the community level and begin to engage them. Because honestly, sometimes I get worried that in as much as we say we are Muslim or Christian dominated, we still believe in traditional and spiritual issues. Yeah. And so where lies our faith as either Muslims or as Christians? Because, and look, believe me, in most of the communities, they have smaller shrines. They have family shrines that they consult, that no deaf can go free without consulting any shrine. And they are not bothered about going for a scientific explanation in the hospital. They still want to consult the shrine. And exactly, the shrine will give them an answer. And I get worried about that because if it is Sunday, we're at church. If it is the daily mosque, we are all there. Friday, we are all gathered. But yet we are easy to go back and go and consult some kind of a miracle, some kind of an oracle. And so I keep asking, look, there was a case in Changlin, one of the suburbs in Tamale. This woman had just come from Mecca. And within some few months, some imam was there said he's doing some recitations from Malam. And eventually he pointed to this woman. And they said they needed to drag the woman to the shrine. And the woman said, no, I cannot go to Mecca, go and see the Kaaba, go and do all of this and end up in a shrine. I will not go. And believe me, this was a case that we were able to fight and it went to the police. The issue also is that we are unable to report the cases. Once we're able to report the cases and the police set in really well, then we will have, some successful ending. But as you and I can testify, in our rural communities where some of these accusations happens, they have no access to police station, and even the nearest police station may be at the district capital, and for a woman who is already maybe not supportive of the whole community, who is there to support such a woman to fight such a case at the police station? And that is why I agree with you that recognizing that the chiefs and the elders are the custodians of our culture and the people, they must begin to set in. And like I said, the regional house of chiefs, and for that matter, the chieftaincy ministry should enjoin all the chiefs to be protective of the people within their jurisdiction in such a way that not just a person who has committed the crime, but the chief should also be made to take responsibility. Because I believe that if it was something good that was coming, it would have come at the doorstep of the chief and would have acclaimed it. But why is it that when these things happen, the chiefs are left out? They need to be responsible for all of this that's happening. And that's why I'm very interested in where your point is coming on. That look, the laws may be there, but if the people are not ready to, understand that their belief is in a way affecting people's human rights, then we will not go anywhere. And I think that we are gradually doing it, and we want everybody to call on, religious leaders, traditional leaders, to put in their voice. Every Friday, for example, every chief has a convening in his or her compound, in his compound. How much minutes are they using to talk about issues that are affecting women and girls? These are things that we must begin to push in our programming. That in the convenience that are happening in the traditional authorities, issues affecting women and girls should find a way to be discussed in the community.
All right, thank you very much, Lamnatu. And I must say that there's this video that we've been playing from the documentary of the women being tortured. I would ask the producers to let's cease playing that, because me sitting here, I find it quite harrowing, and it's quite disturbing to my sensibilities. And I can imagine there are lots of people who are out there who also can't bear watch these people being subjected to all of that. And by the way, those videos were not put together by ourselves. These were videos that were filmed by the people who were on the scene, because we would never watch anyone go through such torture and look on and film it. That's never going to happen. So I want to bring you in, Ahmed, at this point. Ahmed, is it possible that we can actually uproot this from the community, as anyone is suggesting?
Yes, it's highly possible. Where there's a will, there's always a way.
How do we get to do that?
When you look at it, yes, we can get to do that. For instance, we need to take the people's game to them. They are doing this because of a firm belief they have that they are doing the right thing. We need to break down their belief system. If you take the Islamic religion, for instance, there is no basis for treating a human being as not a human being. If you go to Christianity, it's the same thing. If you go to the traditional belief system, it's the same thing. So we need to take the language, the belief system that the people understand, and package it and do the messages. So we need proper messaging in terms of how we can leverage their very traditions. There are beautiful aspects of our traditional belief systems. There are beautiful aspects of our Islamic religion. There are beautiful aspects of our Christian religion, which are the three dominant religions in Ghana. If we do the necessary research, we can use evidence from these respective religions to be able to engage the people. And then also, we need to empower. That's why I like countries like Rwanda in terms of regulation. If you don't have a first degree, you cannot be a pastor in Rwanda, because they want you to have a first degree in theology. If you go to some of the villages, so-called pastors, so-called religious leaders, so-called imams are prophesying and claiming that they have had a vision. And some people are witches, some people are wizards. And we need to work on these people as well to let them understand that, yes, you may be a religious leader, you may be a prophet or whatever you call yourself, but there are certain things that are criminal. And we need to also get some of our traditional authorities to understand that there are criminal cases they cannot adjudicate. If somebody is beaten up, somebody is molested, somebody's arm is amputated, you cannot sit down and say you want to resolve it at your palace. It's purely criminal. And your mandate as chief does not extend to adjudicating criminal cases. So we need to call people's bluff. We need to take their own language to them, package the messaging in such a way that their very culture and belief system is broken down. You know, most of these communities are rural, and one of the core characteristics of a rural area is the limited fatalism, where people think that their progress can be affected by somebody, even by just merely sleeping and thinking about a person or dreaming. So we need to work on the people's and have a strong communication plan that speaks to the direct belief systems. And when we do that with the chiefs, with the religious leaders, with the civil society, and I emphasize that we need to begin to strategically litigate, support survivors and victims, to demand and exercise their rights. When we do that and they know that there is somebody behind these victims supporting them, it will serve as a strong deterrent. Culture is dynamic. Yes, we agree, we respect everybody's culture. But where a culture is inimical to the development of a person or a community, it's an indictment on the state, an indictment of RegSec, an indictment of the Ministry of Gender, and all citizens of Ghana that we allow it to perpetuate. All right. Thank you much, Ahmed. Jojo, this wouldn't be the first time we've had a conversation about witchcraft accusations, and you've put together this one. What do you expect to be the outcome? What do you intend to achieve, or what do you hope that will be the outcome of this documentary?
Well, the question that you put to me, I put to the women in the camp, and all of them said that they want the police to act. Mary Ibrahim said, well, yes, I was giving money for medical bills. It settled medical bills. I want the police to make sure that these people are punished so that they would, when next time they will not accuse someone of witchcraft and attack the person. And then I spoke to Kogo Tendana, and then these are her words. She said, if the people can do that to me, a woman who is very old, and they will not have pity on me and they would beat me up to that level, I want government to act. Then Zainab Tendana also said, well, described how they beat her with a bicycle chain, and then said that she would support any action to bring justice to the woman. And she cracked a joke and said, hey, I said I would do that, but I don't want to be the only person. I want all of us to come together so that we can fight it. And it looks like that is one aspect that we have failed. We have not tested the law enough, because anytime we have to test the law, excuses will come up, chiefs will come in, people will come in and say, oh. So that is the reason why people feel very emboldened to do carry out very barbaric, atrocious acts to these women. Because if you and this is just the tip of the iceberg. In Gambaga witch camp, for example, a child was just sleeping, and then she sleep talks, and then someone said, well, she's a witch because she's been talking in her sleep. And this, I mean, for the number of times that I sleep talk, I can imagine by this time I should be languishing in one of the witches camp, because I mean, when your thoughts are full and you are talking to yourself, and yes, you communicate with yourself, those are things that are very natural and very normal. And many children do that. Many people do that. Even adults do that. I mean, this should qualify them as witches. And so we need to test the law. We need to make sure that we go to the full extent to test the law, to make sure that the people who accuse people, first to criminalize accusation. Because, I mean, how do you accuse someone of being a witch when you don't have any other evidence? And then you have a very crude method of verifying. Yeah. And even when that particular method that you decided, the standard that you have sets the person free, you still say that, well, the person still has to go there. And the only reason why people do that is because they feel emboldened. And there's another layer. Now, people even kill them even before they get to the witch camp. Like, they do it silently. and then it vanishes, and it's a problem. Now, I remember when I was speaking to Samson La, one of the coordinators, the coordinator of the Gambaga witch camp, he said, well, there was this person who was brought in with, and because someone had gotten elephantiasis, so the person was a witch. So they took a doctor there and went to explain to the people what causes elephantiasis, and they showed pictures of many other people. And that was when they accepted the people. So I think that government, the gender ministry needs to take cue from what this project coordinator is doing, go there with the professionals and explain the various issues. For example, if a child is sleep talking, there's definitely a reason why a child is sleep talking. They should take the professionals there, educate the people, because that is the only way. Because, I mean, when we allow the people not to have education, when people are denied education for a very long time, and they have their own beliefs, they tend to have their own beliefs, they tend to have their own understanding of what causes what. Right. And so we need to intensify the education.
All right. All right, thank you very much, Jojo Kobna, and thank you for that great work. We pray and hope that this marks a turning point, and this is going to make a difference. And I want to say thank you to you, Ahmed, as well, and to you, Lamnatu. We all pray that we get to see a change or something significant happens in a positive way for these women and children and men who tend to be victims of these witchcraft accusations. Thank you all for joining us for the conversation.
Yes, difficult one there, Israel. Really difficult, isn't it, to have this conversation and feel so helpless that we can't actually do much about it apart from bring it out into the light and hope that, the relevant authorities deem it important enough to invest some time and some effort into fixing that.